Our Constitution guarantees right to freedom. Right to freedom is contained from Article 19 to 22. Article 19, first of all, speaks about the 6 fundamental freedoms of the citizens of India, and again what are the requirements where they can be restricted, or what are the conditions on which these freedoms could be restricted. First of all, coming to the Article 19 and its subclauses or subarticles, we have 6 fundamental freedoms. First of all, freedom of speech and expression, freedom to assemble peaceably and without arms, freedom to form associations and unions, freedom to move from any place to any place within the territory of India, freedom to reside and settle in any place within the territory of India or in any part of the territory of India, and freedom to practice any profession, to carry on any occupation, trade or business. These are the 6 fundamental freedoms which are guaranteed by Article 19. So, first of all, Article 19 speaks about these freedoms and what are these freedoms. 19(1)(f) has been removed, it has been omitted by the Constitution 44th Amendment Act of 1978, which was the freedom to acquire, hold and dispose of property. Now, it is not in the part 3, the right to property has been shifted to Article 300A, and therefore, it is no more part of our part 3, that is fundamental rights. Therefore, we do not have 7 freedoms as earlier, we have 6 fundamental freedoms. So, 19 subclause 1 says all citizens shall have the right. That means all citizens only have these freedoms. These freedoms are not available to non-citizens or aliens. These are complete freedoms which are guaranteed as we have guaranteed the liberty under the preamble of our Constitution, which speaks of liberty of thought, expression and faith, belief and worship. So, belief, faith and worship comes under the freedom of religion, and thought and expression comes under the freedom of Article 19, that is the fundamental freedom of speech and expression. Now, let us look into one by one all these fundamental freedoms. First of all, the freedom of speech and expression. What do we mean by speech and expression? So, speech is an inherent quality of a human being, and it is an inherent right of a person to speak, and it has been guaranteed, it has been protected under our Constitution. Expression means anything which is expressed either by speech or either even without speech. For example, making signs also amount to expression, or writing something, or depicting something in the form of a dance, in a form of a music, in a form of a book, in a form of a poem, in a form of a caricature. In any manner, if an expression is shown, that is also the fundamental freedom of expression imbibed under Article 19 subclause 1. So, this is the fundamental freedom of speech and expression. Secondly, we have the fundamental freedom to assemble peaceably. It says that peaceably we can assemble, the citizens can assemble anywhere. It may be for a public gathering, it may be for a public meeting, it may be for forming a association, it may be within friends, it may be in public. So, a person, a citizen has a right to assemble, but the assembly should be peaceable. It should not be for any violence. Secondly, the assembly should be without carrying any arms or weapons. So, if a person is found in an assembly with weapons or arms, he can be restricted, he can be regulated, he can be controlled, and the law can punish him. This is the freedom of assembly. Then, the freedom of forming associations and unions. So, every citizen has a right to form association with several people. It may be for a particular purpose. It may be a student association, it may be a merchants association, it may be a labor association, it may be for several purposes. To put our demands before the management, the workers may form a union. So, these rights are there in 19 subclause 1 C. Then, the freedom of movement. A person has a right to move from one place to another through by any conveyance, by walk, by cycle or by any vehicle. he has a freedom to move from one place to another within the territory of India under Article 19(1)(d). Then Article 19(1)(e) guarantees the right to reside and settle in any place. In India, we have a freedom to reside in any place. We can choose our residence, we can choose our place of domicile, or we can choose our place of carrying on our business also. So, we have a freedom to reside and settle anywhere within the territory of India. This is a fundamental freedom guaranteed under 19(1)(e). Then we have a freedom under 19(1)(g), that is to carry on our profession. So, here the state does not impose a restriction that he should carry on a particular profession. Anybody can choose his own profession, any citizen can carry on any occupation, he can shift to another occupation, he can change his trade, he can change his business whenever he wishes. It is a free choice of that person and he can do it anytime. So, this is a fundamental freedom guaranteed under 19(1)(g). But as we know, these freedoms, or for that matter any freedom, can never be an absolute freedom, because one person's freedom may be again injuring somebody else's freedom. Just because I have a right to speak, I cannot speak something which harms somebody, I cannot speak something which may injure somebody, or I cannot speak something which comes within the rights of somebody else, or for that matter a public right. Same way, the right to assembly, right to form association, right to move, right to reside, it should be exercised in such a way that nobody should have any complaint against that person exercising his right. So, what do we do for that? There is a requirement for a reasonable restriction to be imposed by the state, and the state does have the right to impose restrictions, but provided the restrictions are reasonable. So, our constitution mentions in Article 19 subclause 2 to Article 19 subclause 6 the reasonable restrictions on the rights to freedom which have been given in Article 19 subclause 1. So, what are these reasonable restrictions? Let us look into the details. The first one is freedom of speech and expression. Article 19 subclause 2 prescribes the restrictions on this particular freedom. It says that nothing in this clause can stop or prevent the state from making any law which imposes reasonable restrictions on the exercise of this right of freedom of speech and expression, but it also mentions the grounds. Now, what are the grounds on which this right can be restricted? That is sovereignty and integrity of India, number 1. Second is security of the state. Third is friendly relations with foreign states. Fourth is public order. Fifth is decency or morality. Sixth is the contempt of court. Seventh is defamation. Eighth is incitement to an offence. These are the grounds on which the state can make a law and impose reasonable restrictions on the exercise of the right to freedom of speech and expression. First of all, sovereignty and integrity of India. If a person speaks anything or expresses anything which tends to harm the Indian sovereignty or which tends to harm the integrity of India, it may be by his speech, it may be by his assembly, or it may be by talking in public, or by his books, or he may post something on the media. Even freedom of press is a part of the freedom of speech and expression. A freedom which is exercised, even a freedom of dress is a part of speech and expression. So, when we are expressing ourselves, if our expression tends to harm the sovereignty and integrity of India, it can be restricted on this ground. The state can make a law. That is the first one. The second ground is security of the state. Just because I have a freedom of speech and expression, I cannot talk in a manner or write something in a manner that may harm or endanger the state's security. So, the state's security or the nation's security has a priority. So, by our freedom of speech and expression, if any citizen tends to harm the security of the state, in that case the person can be taken action against by the state by a law. So, that is the second one. Third is friendly relations with foreign states. This ground has been introduced by an amendment. It was not there earlier. In fact, sovereignty and integrity of India and friendly relations with foreign states and incitement to an offence were the three grounds which are added later. So, if by writing anything or by publishing anything or by any expression like dance or music or any kind of expression, if a person tends to harm the friendly relations of India with any foreign country, then for example, if he speaks anything about the persons who visit India, who are from a foreign state which is a friendly state, or any diplomats or any foreign entities or any foreign relations or for any foreign matters. If a person tries to publish anything or speak anything about those matters which are sovereign to that particular state which is friendly to India, which may harm the relation of that state with India, then on that ground also the state can impose reasonable restrictions and the state can stop him from doing so. So, this is the third restriction. The fourth is public order. Public order is an expression which cannot be defined, but which can be understood. In public order, if we do any act which tends to harm the order in the public, for example, we take a procession, we speak on a public platform which arouse some feelings in the people which tends to harm the public order. It causes disorder in the public, it causes violence in the public, it causes influencing the feelings of the public. If by any manner, if the order which is there and the state is in responsibility of maintaining the public order, if that is disturbed, then on that ground also state can make a law imposing the restrictions on that ground. Subclause, that is the fifth ground, that is in subclause 19 subclause 2, it speaks about decency or morality. If a person by his acts or by his expressions or speech, he tends to show anything which is indecent in public or which tends to bring in immoral sentiments in the public, or if he behaves indecently, he by his expressions or by his writing a book or a movie or any expression or any speech, if that is, it comes under the definition of indecency. Now, what is indecency? The Supreme Court has held in one case that indecency amounts to obscenity. What is obscenity? Obscenity means anything which tends to corrupt the minds of or deprave minds of right thinking persons of the society. It is called as a indecent or an immoral act. Immoral means something which goes against public morals. So, the state has a responsibility to promote or to protect public morality and see that we are decently conducting ourselves in public. So, for that purpose, if any expression or speech tends to harm decency or morality, it can be controlled, it can be regulated, it can be punished under a law. Then contempt of court. There is a law again for contempt of court. If a person tends to cause contempt of any court, how does he cause contempt of any court? For example, it is defined in the Contempt of Courts Act that a person who brings down the reputation of the court, brings down the status of the court, tries to insult any court, tries to bring in any disturbance in the court proceedings, or he tends to disobey the court's order. So, if that happens, we cannot say that I have a freedom of speech, I can speak anything before the public, even against the courts, or insult the sanctity of a court or sanctity of the judiciary. If anything happens which amounts to contempt of court, that person can be punished under the Contempt of Courts law. That is another restriction on this particular right. Then defamation. A person cannot defame another in the grounds or in the guise of freedom of speech and expression. Defamation means to bring down the reputation of a person in the eyes of others. So, it may be orally, it may be in writing. So, defamation can be in two forms. It may be in form of a slander, which is a oral defamation, or in the form of a libel, which is a written defamation. So, if a person writes something or says something which amounts to defaming that particular person, some other person in the public or in the eyes of the public, then the state can take action and he may be punished under the law. Then if a person by his, if a citizen or any person on a ground of freedom of speech and expression or having a right, he cannot incite others to commit an offense. Speaking something, and you cannot say that I have spoken something, I have not committed an offense. Speaking that also may incite somebody, it may amount to abetment. Somebody else may listen to the speech by a person and try to commit an offense. So, such speech or expression can be controlled, can be regulated by reasonable restrictions on the ground of this Article 19 subclause 2. So, these are the 8 grounds which are specified in Article 19 subclause 2 to regulate the freedom of speech and expression or to restrict the freedom of speech and expression whenever required. Next is the freedom of assembly. So, we have a freedom to assemble peaceably without arms. Now, the state can make law imposing reasonable restrictions on the ground of two things: sovereignty and integrity of India and public order. If the person behaves in a manner when he assembles which tends to harm the sovereignty and integrity of India, or which tends to harm the public order by his assembly, he may have a gathering, he may have a meeting where he speaks of something or he does something which may harm the public order. On that ground, the freedom of assembly can be restricted. The third one is freedom of association. A person can form associations, a person can form unions. Any person can associate with somebody and form an association for a particular purpose. But when he forms a particular association, he has to see that it does not violate these three grounds. That is, one is if his association is harming the sovereignty and integrity of India or public order or morality. You cannot form an association for immoral purpose or for a public order, for disturbing the public order or for doing something which goes against the sovereignty and integrity of India. If that is done, then the right of that person can be restricted. This is subclause 4. Subclause 5 speaks about the freedom of both movement and residence. A person has a right, a citizen has a right to move anywhere in India. He has a right to reside and settle anywhere peacefully, anywhere in any part of the territory of India. But it has to be subject to these two grounds. First of all, the state can make law imposing restrictions on the ground of interest of general public. It may be a forest area, there may be a restriction that a person should not move in that place for the interest of the general public. It may be a place where a group of people which are the scheduled tribes. When we say scheduled tribes, it may be any aboriginal tribe which is in some parts of India, for example, Assam or Nagaland or such places, or Andaman and Nicobar, such places where these tribal people are not well versed with the urban population, or they are not associated with the urban population, and venturing into those areas may cause disturbance in their lives. In such cases, in the interest of their protection, the reasonable restrictions on the ground of this particular protection of interest of scheduled tribes, the state can make laws and prohibit people from moving into those areas unless they get a particular permission for a purpose. Suppose they go for studying these people or for improving their lives, or if they go into those areas to conduct some training, then they have to, according to the law, they have to see that the requirements are met. Then a person cannot reside in these areas also. So, subject to these two restrictions, we can exercise the freedom of movement and residence. And the last one, that is the reasonable restriction on freedom of carrying on any profession or practicing any profession, carrying on any occupation, trade and business. Article 19 subclause 6 has the restrictions relating to this. The state can make law relating to requirement of certain professional or technical qualifications. In this case, suppose we want to carry on any profession. For example, I want to become a doctor, I want to become an engineer. So, if the state says that if you have to become an engineer, you have to qualify for it, you have to pass the necessary exams. I want to become a lawyer, I have to pass the necessary exams. I want to carry on a profession of a doctor, I have to show my skill, I have to take the training in that, I have to pass the exam, I have to take the degree. So, these are the qualifications prescribed by the state, so that that particular profession should be carried on according to the requirements. This is a reasonable restriction. You cannot say that I have a right to carry on any profession or practice any profession, and therefore, without taking a training I can venture into a profession. It cannot be done, because profession is something where you use your abilities for the public interest also. It is not only your freedom. So, technical or professional qualifications can be prescribed by the state by making laws to practice any profession. Then, relating to occupation, trade and business also, the state may make a law relating to requirements to enter into that occupation. It may require certain training, or it may require you to take up any pay any fees for a license to carry on that trade or business, or in any manner it may have some law which controls by seeing that you practice that trade and business properly. This is in the interest of public. So, here 19 subclause 6 says that in the interest of public, the state makes laws relating to these reasonable restrictions. Secondly, if the state decides to carry on any trade, business, industry or service to the exclusion of citizens, that means the state wants to carry on that trade or business as a state monopoly, that is also allowed as one particular restriction under subclause 6, where suppose the state wants to carry on banking business, it can nationalize the banks. It wants to carry on insurance business, it can nationalize the insurance business. This is also in the interest of the general public that it can do so. So, summarizing these things, we can see that Article 19 subclause 2 has a restriction on right to freedom of speech and expression. 19 subclause 3 has a it mentions about reasonable restrictions on right to assembly. 19 subclause 4 speaks about reasonable restrictions on right to form associations and unions. 19 subclause 5 on right to movement and residence. 19 subclause 6 on right to profession, occupation, trade and business. These are the reasonable restrictions under 19 subclause 2 to 6, and 19 subclause 1 A to G provides for the naming or listing of the fundamental freedoms of the citizens of India, which has been guaranteed by our Constitution. I hope you have learned something from this video. If you have liked it, please share it with anyone who you think would be interested. Please leave your comments and I would be happy to reply to them. Do subscribe to get more information on everyday law and legal studies. Thank you.